The Big Beat Challenge is the BHF's biggest ever award in 6 decades, and it's a truly transformational programme to back some of the best science in the world to help end heartbreak from inherited cardiomyopathies.
We know that inherited heart muscle diseases are common. They affect about 1 person in 250 in every population. So these are conditions that arise from a spelling mistake, a single spelling mistake in your DNA, and that can be passed down the generation. So there can be multiply affected individuals within one family. And that amplifies the burden that these families suffer.
My dad is called Graham Thomas. He was amazing. I mean, the best dad you could wish for. Always had time for me and my sister, was our biggest cheerleaders, always wanted us to do the best. We were on holiday, so me, my mum, my sister, my dad. Dad said, do you want to come for a run? We ran along the seafront where we were staying. I was slowly running behind, and then he just sort of had fallen over. So I went over to him just to say, come on, get up, Dad, you're embarrassing me. But then obviously I realised he hadn't tripped, so he wasn't sort of saying anything. So I called my mum and sister to say, I think you need to come. I don't know what's happening. I think it was an ambulance that came. And then it's all a bit of a blur really, but I just remember being in the ambulance with mum and my sister. They came and told us that he passed away. I don't think it was until we were at home that we knew it had been from hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and obviously, what is that? Never heard of it, didn't know anything about that. So that was, I think, sort of when I found the British Heart Foundation.
Through the Big Beat Challenge and this incredible investment, we're going to be building on work that scientists are doing right here, right now in the lab, to make a real difference for people with inherited cardiomyopathies.
We've got to this position where we think we're ready to try to derive these cures because we've been researching this disorder for more than 20 years with research funding from the British Heart Foundation from the beginning. But it's now radically turbocharged by the Big Beat Challenge. And it's the scale of that award and the amount of funding that's really accelerating progress. So it's been possible for me to think of all the different components we would need to put together a research program, to think who's the best in the world for delivering each component, and to bring them on board. And everyone has said yes. It's been extremely rewarding and very gratifying to see what an international collaboration we've put together because of the Big Beat Challenge.
I think it's the same as when someone asks me, when did you learn Welsh? And you don't really remember learning it, you're just brought up with it. And I think it's the same really with the heart condition. I don't remember being told there's a heart problem because I was put on screening, clinical screening at such an early age. It was just kind of part of life. I think it was only really when I went to comprehensive school is when I started realising that things weren't necessarily, I suppose not normal is probably not the right term to use, but things were different.
In 1997, I lost my 30-year-old husband when he sustained a cardiac arrest whilst he was at work. He was an amazing husband, a brilliant dad. He'd come home from work and the first thing he'd do, sit on the floor, play with Ellis, and that would be it until it was dinner time, and then it would be I'll give him his bath, and then he'd have his bottle and then off to bed. Being a cardiology nurse, I knew that cardiomyopathy, in particular hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which is what is in our family, is genetic or inherited in nature. So there are implications then for Ellis, obviously, who was literally just had his 3rd birthday when his dad died.
When he turned 22, he was formally diagnosed then, and that was very, very hard for him. I'd also say quite hard for me as well to support someone going through that because it was so traumatic. I felt like it had opened everything back up for Ellis, what happened with his father, but obviously knowing about the condition is a lot better.
Then it was, a couple of years of finding myself, but, finding my feet a little bit in terms of finally accepting it and learning to live with the condition. I was more open to the idea of having a defibrillator. So I think when I was 25, 26 years old, I decided to have the defibrillator implanted. And I've been living with that since, and it's probably the best decision I've ever made.
After having the ICD, which we were all like, oh, finally, in complete relief about, there's been a massive change. Day to day, we don't feel like it really affects us because it doesn't really. But in the future, yeah, it's going to affect us. We have to make that decision whether we want to conceive naturally. That child then has to go through what Ellis went through growing up, going through screening. Do we really want to, make someone else go through that as well? And obviously the new research that has come out as well will be hugely beneficial for people in our situation.
So the concept behind our research is fairly simple. We know that an individual who has a genetic cardiomyopathy will have it because of a single spelling mistake in a single gene. And there are now some remarkable tools that allow us to correct that spelling mistake in the heart muscle cells. So the concept is simple, but actually we have some hurdles to overcome. We have to get these genetic medicines into the heart, ideally into each and every one of the heart muscle cells. We have to show that it's safe and effective and doesn't cause any harm there or elsewhere. But we already know that these treatments can absolutely stop this condition in its tracks. And our great ambition is to show that it's safe enough that we can use it in a young person who has the genetic spelling mistake, but whose heart is not yet affected, and stop them from ever developing the condition. And that would be a cure.
I met Professor Watkins via a Zoom meeting because I was on one of the focus groups, and what an incredible guy. And to think that these people are working on these projects to edit faulty genes and to be able to switch off a faulty gene to stop someone developing a condition if they've got that faulty gene is just mind-blowing.
It provides so much hope, I suppose, for the future for people like me and families in our situation.
You know, the potential that this could save someone else's dad so they don't have to go through what me and my family have gone through is just amazing.
CureHeart was selected as the winner of our Big Beat Challenge amongst the most competitive of fields, bringing together the world's best scientists. And we were just so excited and so passionate about the team's vision to really help make a difference for people with inherited cardiomyopathies. And we're so grateful to everybody who supports the British Heart Foundation for supporting this programme to allow us to invest funds and to make a difference for so many people.